Overwatch 2's Summer Games patch notes have just been released and are already live in-game. We have a lot of adjustments towards the tank class, DPS class, including the builders, and some supports. So let's get right into it with the tanks. Our first tank is Orisa, who will be receiving a buff to her Fortify. The damage reduction has been increased from 40% to 50%, so when she starts to glow, she's even more tankier than before, especially since she has no headshot and is immune to all crowd control during her Fortify. This should be a great buff to Orisa. Up next is a small buff to Ramatra. Ramatra's Ravenous Vortex, his E. The projectile now passes through enemy heroes, but is still blocked by barriers. There are a couple of instances where Ramatra's E can hit a hero and it bounces off of them just to land in a bad area. Now that will not happen anymore as it will pass through all heroes, but it will still bounce off barriers. Up next is a small buff for Reinhardt. Reinhardt's shield will be going up from 1200 to 1400 just to be able to tank a little more. And the final buff for the tanks is a Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball's manual reload has been reduced from 2 to 1.6. This does not affect his automatic reload while rolling in the ball form. This is when he is in turret form. Up next are the damage heroes, and we have a couple adjustments towards hit scan heroes and builders. First up, we have Sojourn. Sojourn's getting a buff towards her railgun. The number of shots to reach her maximum spread is increased from 8 to 12, so more precise aiming on those first 12 shots, and the spread has been reduced by 12% to make sure you're landing more of those shots. Soldier 76 is receiving a big buff, and this may push him over the edge. His heavy pulse damage rifle is increasing its damage from 18 to 19 per bullet. Helix Rockets, his right click, explosion damage is increased from 80 to 90, and biotic field healing per second has been increased from 35 to 40. So get ready to see a lot of damage boosting soldiers one-tapping you with a Helix Rocket and 2 autos. And moving on to the builders, the biggest change coming to this patch is Symmetra. Symmetra is receiving some sort of a mini rework, moving power away from her turrets and putting it into the other aspects of her kit. So let's see what they came up with. Her right click maximum damage has been increased from 45 to 50, and the explosion damage has been increased from 45 to 50. So that's a net buff from 90 to 100 DPS on her orbs, meaning she can now two-shot most of the DPS heroes, which is a great buff for Sim as she was not able to confirm kills that fast. And she can now regenerate up to 30 shield health if you are dealing damage with your primary fire to a barrier or enemies with shield health. This could be an insane buff or it could be nothing. And the area that has the most talk to town, her turrets. Her turrets are getting nerfed. The damage per second has been reduced from 40 to 25. Before they were buffed, they were at 30 DPS, so this is an even bigger nerf than before. But now turrets now reveal enemy hero allies while dealing damage and for 1 additional second afterwards, so similar to a Hanzo Scout Arrow or Widowmaker's ultimate. I'm not too sure how good that 1 second reveal is, as most of her turrets are in choke points, but the damage reduction is a little bit disappointing. Up next is our other builder, Torbjorn. Torbjorn will be receiving some adjustments towards his turret and other parts of his kit. First up is his rivet gun. Secondary fire spread reduced from 5 to 4.5 degrees. His big nerf, Deploy Turret, damage reduced from 14 to 11 DPS, and cooldown increased from 10 to 12 seconds. And Overload, his E, now reloads 6 ammo on use, so it seems like they're wanting Torb to rely more on his gun gameplay rather than his turret. And moving on to the supports, we have 2 changes coming to the supports. One is minor, and one is pretty big. First up is Kiriko. Her healing of food or recovery time has been reduced from 1 to 0.9 seconds, so have fun with that 0.1 second reduced recovery time. And Zenyatta, Discord Orb has been a pain for a lot of players the past couple of seasons, and so it's finally looking at some changes. Maximum range reduced from 40 to 30 meters, and time to wear off the target while not in line of sight is reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds. So no damage adjustments or cooldown adjustments towards Zenyatta's orb, just range and line of sight. And since this is the summer game patch, we are excited that Lucio Ball and the all-new Winston Beach Volleyball are in the game right now for you to play in the arcade mode. And there's an all-new competitive mode called Team Q. Team Q is for 5-man stacks only. Players can group up regardless of how far apart they are in rank. This should be a great way to include more casual groups of players to try out competitive mode. Well, those are all the changes already in Overwatch 2. Who are you expecting to see rise up to the meta, and who is expecting to fall? What are your thoughts on soldier buffs, Symmetra changes, and Zenyatta's Orb of Discord? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.